Hi, my name's Andy. Welcome to my project studio. I want to do a series of films showing a little bit about what I do behind the scenes when putting music to film and also just making music in a home or project studio. Today I'm going to be looking at an advert that I composed music for a UK-based film company called Cineon Productions. The link will be below. The advert itself was aired on ITV for a government campaign to sponsor or to promote adoption in the Southwest. The advert was shown on ITV between Coronation Street and Emmerdale, and this is a little bit about how I do what I do. So we'll jump into the project here. Straight away you'll notice, or if you know what you're looking at, it's Logic. I'm using a Mac with Logic. This I'm recording in April 2017, but I'm using an early 2011 MacBook Pro with an i7 quad-core, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and the most up-to-date version of Logic, 10.3.1. So I'll show you a little bit of the project as I received it. So it had a voiceover already.
Right now, there are children in the Southwest waiting to be adopted, and you can adopt if you're Southwest, making adoption quicker and simpler. So what are you waiting for? Contact Adopt Southwest today, see if adoption is right for you.
So really, really nice advert, really well produced, 30 seconds long, very good voiceover. Most of the projects I get actually like this, they will be either silent or have a voiceover. Sometimes there'll be some ambient background music, but for this, very clean in the first instance. So what I did with Toby, one of the owners at Cineon Productions, I sent him a few different examples, which he then worked with the client to see what did they want the sound to come out like. So in the end, we went for, one of the riffs I sent him was like this. The fingering's not exact, it was just a sketch, but that chord progression, that feel was what we went for. But the client wanted it a little bit fuller, a bit more upbeat, bit more up tempo. So I fleshed it out and made it a more percussive strumming type feel. And that's using a semi-acoustic Cort light body. One input is a condenser microphone, another input is a DI, and they're panned either side. And there is some automation actually to move the DI off to the right, and the condenser microphone is already off to the left. That's just to allow a bit of room for the other instruments that come in. And there is quite a lot of reverb on that. You'll see why in a little bit. Or at least I'll try and explain why in a little bit. Next, I put some bass in. So I played this bass in. It's a Logic preset, and I did do a little bit of extra effects on it, and I'll get to that as well. That sounds like this. Next is the piano. So I am going quite quickly because I want this to be quite short, and any questions that are at the end, then I can answer those. So the piano as well. So I played that in on the MIDI keyboard, and then I would have balanced it out afterwards. So with all together. And then some drums. And some percussion. I thought that was nice, but I wanted a little bit of a lift halfway through. 30 seconds isn't very long, but just to add a bit of a crescendo, I added in an electric guitar halfway through. That's what this sounds like here. All the way through the composition phase, this would have taken a day and a half, 2 days perhaps, overall, just to get the right feel, backwards and forwards with the client and recording, re-recording, mixing and so on. All the while I was just flicking back to the voiceover and checking the film just to make sure that the movement and the timing sat in well with what the voiceover was telling us. And as well, I do drop everything off towards the end so that the audience is made more aware of the fact that as the music dips away, then all that remains is the final message of the splash screen and the final message of the voiceover. Okay, so that was the overall composition. What I did next was bounce out some of the guitars, so just the acoustic guitars and some of the percussion. And what I did is I brought that back into the track as a single stereo file, which I then compressed quite heavily and notched out. So I compressed coming in and then bus compression as well. Very general, big compression here, slow attack, slow release, and then notched out part of this. Now the reason I did this was because I wanted to parallel compress parts of the mix, but not all of the mix. Instead of sending parts of the mix out to a group track and then doing different routing and so on, just bounced it out and I'm parallel compressing it as it goes along. So we can listen to the track without this, and then without, with. So it just brings forward some of the percussive elements and the strumming of the guitar, and makes the overall feel and sound a bit fuller. Now jumping head into the mixing stage, you can see I always like to color my tracks just to make this a little bit easy to move around. Drums I always have in red, bass I always have in purple. I try the higher frequencies, I try to have lighter colors, and the lower frequencies, lower colors. Not always exact, but try and stay that way. All of the send channels and the group channels, I try and have them all the same color. And then this is a sidechain kick, which I didn't color. I don't think it was not just a default. So looking at the mixing then, I've grouped the initial guitar parts to bus 10, which had some room reverb. I am processing these slightly differently, and they are panned left and right. The bounce that comes in, I just for the balance of the overall track, I did move that off to the right slightly, and this does increase in volume slightly with automation just towards the intro there. The bass I've kept fairly clean. The bass is sidechain compressed with the kick, you'll see, just to allow a little bit of room. It just does two things really. It allows a little bit of room for the kick. It also makes the click of the kick a little bit more prominent in the mix. It's not jostling for space in the lower frequencies, which is especially important on playback devices, I think, that, such as TVs and the lower quality sound playback devices, which, let's face it, a lot of the audience is still listening to on that type of thing. The piano, little bit of EQ, just a very soft bit of compression, not even worth noticing. I do, however, move this to two different reverbs, so a small hall and a large church reverb. Now, the Steinway emulation is really good. It's not very bright. I did notch out a little bit of a bit of boxiness just to make it a little bit of room. And what this does is it gives a nice background kind of mid-range drone. So it fills out that space. Now, I don't want it to sound muddy, but I do want it to sound full. Drums-wise, I love that in Logic you can stack all this together and open it and close it. Drums-wise, I'm panning left and right just to allow for space. Most notably here, I'm doing a bit of EQ, compression, and saturation on the group track for the drums, and for the claps. Claps are hard panned right and sent to a reverb, which is panned left. That just again opens out the claps, gives a nice stereo width to the claps. And finally, the electric guitar, using another preset which I've then tweaked a little bit, adding some compression and some EQ. I'm adding a nice little boost in the EQ and dipping out the sort of 250 area, and then because it's got a nice crunch to it, I'm just raising it up above in the sort of high mids frequencies. And that gives an overview of what I do when I'm working here. I haven't talked much about the the mastering stage, or the latter stages of the mix. What I do is I bounce out all of the composition, and then I sidechain the vocal so that the overall composition is ducked slightly as the voiceover comes in. That's another video. If you want to see that video or anything, if you've got any questions about any of what you've seen today, please leave comments in the section below. I'll try and answer every comment, either with another comment or perhaps with another video. A like rating would be greatly appreciated. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you do want to give a thumbs down, please say why, because I'd like to improve on what I'm doing here. And it just remains for me to say good luck and talk to you next time. Bye-bye.